most, if not all, voices of a generation that are in the public eye, that are well circulated and well financed, have been corrupted. Somebody got to them, they blackmailed them, and or they bought into this shit, into what our masters are up to. If I'm not mistaken, I mean, Alan Watts, it fucking worked for these assholes. If you listen to what he's gonna tell you in a second, he's gonna mention planets, because that's one of the bullshit adult fairy tale narratives that you're supposed to fucking buy into and repeat. The other one's the flat earth, neither of which you can use as a tool. That's why they're spoon fed to you. That's why that quote unquote content is still circulated and not censored, because those are adult fairy tales. That's the shortcut to thinking, but most people haven't figured that out.
A difficult thing for some people to understand is what's happening today is not just an elite making a final move to take over anything. You're up against something, a system that's very, very, very old. It's the only truly organized system on the whole planet. You will only find this kind of fanatical intergenerational devotion to an agenda when there's some kind of religion involved in it. That's a hard concept for people to grasp. They've been trained to believe things are happening at the moment by happenstance, by crisis coming out of nowhere. And here's what we must do. We must solve this problem at the time. Nothing is further from the truth. Every generation for hundreds of years has been brought up with the same elites, predecessors, designing and running the show for each generation. And when people wake up, they generally go through the same stages as someone who becomes bereaved when you find that democracy never existed in the first place.
So he told you a couple different things in terms of lesser magic. One, that you have these bloodlines that have been carrying things on generationally speaking. Most people have never looked into what reflects reality, what's still available to the public sphere, and sorted out the fact that our masters are playing the long game, which is also known as the Great Game. And it dates back to approximately the 16th century. This is when things kicked off, and they really started, how should I put it? They started rolling out agendas. And throughout the centuries, in many ways, it was slow going. You could almost model it after what we consider progress in terms of human history. If you've noticed recently, they are ramping things up. Not unlike how quickly we shit out quote unquote technology related to computers and stuff. These things are intertwined, intimately intertwined, and people don't realize this. One of the things, and one of the reasons, since he mentioned they're fanatical because it has to do with a religion, so to speak, one of the things people don't realize is that our masters have been promised something. And in the meantime, in the stead, or while they act as stewards, yeah, they are given power and clout to govern over or rule over you and I. And that's what they do have right now. But they've been promised other things, which is why they're doing what they're doing. And most people don't realize any of this. Most people don't think that they have masters. Even though they work 5 to 6 days a week, they pay unconstitutional taxes, they pay the racket that is car insurance, and the list fucking goes on. And those are superficial examples for people who are bottom of the barrel dumb and unwilling to think for themselves. You and I are a means to an end. We put bread on their tables. When they say jump, we say how high. When they say put on a mask, most of you said, how many? How many would you like me to put on my face? Because people aren't thinking for themselves if that wasn't painfully obvious. And again, shit like this that's well circulated and well financed, you can't trust it. You shouldn't trust it. These are celebrity puppets. These are figureheads. These are face men. And the same applies to superficial politics and superficial fucking social control religion. If you've ever heard of the Pope or you ever heard of a president, most people haven't figured this shit out. Towards the end of this message, he talked about democracy. Democracy is a shade of fascism. It's fascism. but people haven't figured it out. It's a lesser form of it. It's a diluted, watered down version of it. But most people, again, didn't look back in history and realize that the Republic fell during the Civil War and was finalized in 1871, when the Organic Act created the District of Columbia, which turned what used to be for the people, by the people, lowercase America, into all capital letters a fucking corporation. And that's a big deal. 1871. That's when that took place, which means it has not been for the people, by the people. Now's a good time to subtract 1871 from 2023, because it's still not 2024, but people will repeat shit that does not reflect reality and not do the right fucking thing, because again, people are below average and not thinking for themselves. The new year begins on March 21st. It always has. It always will. That's how it fucking works. The shortcut to thinking there, and I've said this too many times, there are two expressions that factor into this, and most people don't connect the dots. You have the zodiac in the sky, right? The little animals, the circle of little animals, other people call the fixed stars. It's really the guided stars, but people are repeating superficial shit. You got Pisces and you got Aries. Those two meet. And between that interaction, that's when the new year begins. You could think of cold feet at the end of the year, also kicking off the beginning of the year, hence March 21st. And then you could think of being hot-headed when things warm up. Breath and life, warmth is breathed back into the system. It's a renewal. That's why it's the new year. That does not occur on December 25th. That does not occur on December 31st. That does not occur on January 1st. And now a brief episode of Tangent Cam. So the numbers that we're using, think of December, think of Deca, think of 10. Also think of 12, there's more to it, but we're not going to go into it. Think of Sagittarius, and think of Pisces. To parallel these, add up the numbers 1 through 10, and you're going to get the end of fucking man, which also has to do with another sigil that looks like this, that has a little fucking arrow that points up. Has to do with Mars. This jazz, if you add this up, you're going to get this. I'm not going to spoon feed you all the answers, but this is why our masters have you worshiping something that is not the end of the fucking year. You are welcome. You and I have been misled at every fucking bend, and most people repeat the absolute garbage, which means they're gumming up the wheels. They're doing us a disservice. It's not only irresponsible, it's absolutely absurd, but most people will repeat what's on the internet, what other people are rattling off, instead of taking pause and thinking about the information, about whether or not they should fucking talk about it in the first place. Because if they did do that, the internet would be pretty fucking quiet these days, because people aren't being spoon-fed answers, they're being spoon-fed propaganda. Understand, what I imparted in this video is superficial to me. However, most people do not know these things. This all comes from the research, 10 years of what I've been up to, primarily speaking. Keep in mind, this is from Seminar 8. Seminar 8 does bridge the 10 years that have respectively been my wilderness years in terms of the deeper research. Seminar 8 has to do with the most superficial shit under the sun. In other words, politics, religion, and junk that people should fucking know. Things that are available to the masses. It's public knowledge. Confuse research with entertainment and adult fairy tales, which are essentially synonymous. They walk hand in hand. This is the most boring seminar I have for people. It's my least favorite. But if people don't get past this shit, they're never going to make any progress. And that much should be clear if you, again, you sit with the information, you think about the information, you work with the information. And you're going to get it wrong more often than you're going to get it right in the beginning. But if you stick with it, it will pan out. It will go somewhere. And it is interconnected with everything and anything else you could possibly imagine. All of which are the things that I could teach you. But instead of leaving that information online these days, because people are just going to corrupt it, and no one's been able to prove that they can think for themselves to me. I've been asking people to do this, but people can't answer fucking test questions unless you can Google it. Unless somebody else has some bullshit to repeat that our masters spoon-fed the internet. People cannot think abstractly anymore, and that should fucking keep you up at night.